Hello, welcome everyone. I like to give people just a couple more minutes to join before we get started. Just another minute before we should be ready to kick things off. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Before our presenters begin, I want to share a few quick tips so you can get the most out of your webinar experience today. Located in your GoToWebinar control panel, you'll find your audio and questions sections. The audio section is where you can choose to tune in using your computer's connected speakers or audio devices, or by dialing in on your phone. In the questions section, we encourage you to submit any questions or comments you may have during the presentation by typing them there. We'll address those during the Q&A session at the end. Finally, there will be live poll questions for you to take part in throughout the webinar, and we'd like to thank you in advance for your participation in those. Now it's time for me to turn it over to our presenter, Ann Gunther, who is our Director, Product Marketer here at Calix. Ann, the mic is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunny. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have lots to share and discuss, so let's start with introductions. We are privileged to have with us today Russell Kocher, President of YK Communications. Russell, can you please share a bit about yourself and YK?
Sure, Ann. Glad to be here. My name is Russell Kocher, President at YK Communications. We are a four-generation family-owned telco-based BSP on the Texas Gulf Coast, just kind of nestled just south of Houston. We've got about 30 employees, and we've got just over 3,000, about 3,200 subs here at YK.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm also very excited to have here today Chelsea Runyon, Senior Manager of Business Insight Services at Calix. Chelsea, would you please share a bit about your role?
Sure, thanks Ann, and I'm glad to be here today as well. And my name is Chelsea Runyon. As Ann mentioned, I'm a Senior Manager on the Business Insights team at Calix. My background is in marketing and consumer research, and I'm passionate about helping our customers use data-driven insights to improve their business. So thank you for having me here.
Great, thanks so much. And I'm Ann Gunther, your moderator today, and part of the product marketing team here at Calix, and have been in product and marketing for more than 15 years with experience in telecommunications, unified communications and collaborations, and the SaaS industries. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into today's discussion. A recent Forbes home internet survey found that on average, people spend 6.5 hours on the internet every day. And when I first read this, I thought, goodness gracious, that is incredible. But then at the same time, it's very relevant, especially when I considered my own household. So, having a reliable service provider and connected experience are high priorities and certainly driving demand. And as you can imagine, this demand means some fierce market competition. In fact, in another industry survey, broadband service providers considered wireline service providers, the 5G mobile operators, tier 1 fixed and satellite providers as the competitors that have the most potential to negatively impact their ability to grow revenue. With this increasingly crowded market competition, it's driving innovation and better services, expanding options for subscribers. Like we can see here, right? Speed alone is clearly not enough. There's a flat ARPU here despite an increase in average speed because subscribers, they want more, right? They want to have that 100% service reliability and consistency. They want efficient customer support, that strong Wi-Fi in every room, and of course, the managed services to personalize that connected lifestyle. And these collectively are about becoming more subscriber focused, right? Really understanding subscriber preferences, their needs, and looking at that experience from end to end, having that full spectrum type of perspective. And this is across the teams within that service provider, right? All of them in concert working together to really serve that experience. And it does matter, right? According to Harvard Business Review, it shares that organizations who foster collaborations across their functions, across those roles, right, were 2.5 times more likely to be seen as leaders in customer experience. And according to Bain, organizations that break down the silos and encourage that cross-departmental collaboration outperform their competitors in terms of loyalty and advocacy. Now, let's take this focus on loyalty a step further here and really see how it correlates, how it connects to profitability. So Chelsea, I know this is an area of expertise for you. What are you seeing here?
You're exactly right, Anne. Very, very well-respected sources like Harvard Business Review and Forbes all have content that are supporting the correlation between companies' net promoter scores and their overall business health. They provide evidence that customer loyalty is directly tied to profitability and have proven that just a 12-point promoter score on average can lead to doubling of a company's growth rate or even more. Our Calix customers have demonstrated a commitment to providing subscribers with a superior level of experience, with a level that actually stands out among the larger broadband service providers. Net promoter score tracking is the best way that we have found to evaluate whether you are delivering on that promise, that commitment that you've made. And absolutely, companies who take a customer-centric approach through NPS and other voice of the customer programs will outpace their competition in customer loyalty, growth, and retention.
Oh, thank you so much, Chelsea. Those are great insights there. Hey, folks, now that we've been discussing some of the key challenges and opportunities facing this innovative market, and before we jump into the rest of the conversation, we'd like to hear from you and better understand your environment. So, Sunny, would you kindly share the poll?
Yes, here we go.
Great. All right, so as we get this poll ready here, we'd like to hear from you, please, about your business challenges or your focus areas in the next 6 to 12 months. So for instance, you might be looking at competitive pressure, right? The need to increase loyalty, reduce subscriber churn, and or better understand and address your subscribers' preferences. What are their concerns? or minimize the support guesswork and enhance satisfaction. And this would especially be true should there be a service impacting type of issue. Another option is looking at how to improve internal alignment, right? Remove those silos. Obviously, as we were hitting on earlier, that can really matter in terms of the perception of the market and what that means to loyalty and profitability. So having more of that end-to-end subscriber experience, and also the need to leverage self-service options to improve that OpEx and customer satisfaction. As we know, customers are changing. Some want more interaction, some want less interaction, right? And having that spectrum can really help to drive satisfaction. And folks, I was also going to quickly mention that if you have a challenge or a focus area in addition to this list here, please share in the questions section because we would love to hear from you. Okay. So Sunny, how are we doing in terms of responses so far?
We're good. Ready to see the results?
Okay, yeah, let's take a peek here.
All right, it looks like competitive pressure, reducing subscriber churn and increasing loyalty is coming in as the #1 challenge with 57% of responses. And self-service options to improve OpEx and customer satisfaction coming in at #2 with 48%.
Excellent. So Chelsea, are you surprised by any of this?
I'm not surprised at all to see competitive pressure #1. We're hearing this over and over again, and companies where they have been the legacy provider or the only option in their area are now either being overbuilt with fiber from other companies, or they're having competitive pressure come in from wireless providers, satellite providers. The competition is increasing more than ever.
Right, great point. And also, just to share some comments on the self-service, I've been seeing that as well in terms of service providers getting more innovative about meeting subscribers where they're at in terms of their communication channels and in the type of support that they prefer, right? So it can be through mobile app or chat, it can be a phone call, whatever that may be. The point is to meet that subscriber where they're at. And sometimes the self-service, if we look at next generations, that can be preferred as well, right? Having more autonomy, that 24/7, 365 type of access. So really great feedback here. We certainly do appreciate it. All right, well, let's go deeper to explore. All right, here we go. Let's go deeper to explore how a BSP can take on this market and deliver a differentiated subscriber experience, right? We're going to talk about the insights here so we can all glean them and really understand what all goes into helping to deliver this experience. So, Russell, thanks again for joining us today. You know, while I shared some market trends in relation to the competitive landscape and evolving market dynamics, what challenges are you seeing?
I mean, and I think the competition is, one of the top things that we're seeing here at YK as well. And, I hear that over and over across the industry. We're having to find ways to differentiate ourselves from the competition. And it's one of those things like we were talking about, whether it's the cellular providers, the fixed wireless providers, the wireline providers, we're finding ourselves having to do more and more customer education because the customers don't really understand it. They don't know the benefits of one over the other. And we're really having to find ways to differentiate ourselves through service and experience so that we stand out against all of those competitive threats that are coming into our service area.
Excellent feedback. Thank you. Thank you. So why is it so important, especially now, to focus on that customer experience and make it part of your company strategy?
Well, and I think, we're talking about finding ways to differentiate yourselves. I think
Right.
that customer experience is the differentiator. I mean, that's what makes us as community-based providers stand out and shine amongst some of the big box providers. So, we're able to provide that level of experience, and it just creates something totally different that our competitors can't touch.
And so what are you doing along that line to enhance the subscriber experience?
So here at YK, when I think back, I remember bringing consultants in 5-10 years ago that we've started looking at customer experience and customer journey mapping, just looking at every opportunity for every time we have a touch point with that customer. Is there a way that we could do it a little bit better? Is there a touch point we could add or remove that would create a better experience for that customer? So we've been looking at this for at least 5 or 10 years to try to streamline just that whole process for our customers and to make it the best experience that they could possibly have. I think one of the other things that we've done here at YK is we've taken the whole idea of being a local provider to a whole new level. I think for a long time, when I first came back into this industry 15 years ago, calling yourselves a local provider was almost a bad word from a marketing perspective, because it kind of had this feeling of we are the local provider, kind of gave that monopoly feeling of, well, there's nowhere else for them to go. We are the local provider. We've kind of stepped away from really touting that local, but I find us doing that in a whole new way now, where it's not so much that just because we're the local provider that's been here, but we're participating in the community. We're showing up, and I tell my team all the time, this is why it's important to show up, to see and be seen, to hear what's going on in our communities, to meet those needs, and for them to see us, whether it's at church, it's at the grocery store, it's coaching a local soccer team, it's showing up for a job fair, crawfish festival, anything like that. It's kind of it's almost local 2.0. It's a different way of looking at local. And I think one of the things that makes that kind of a differentiator for us is that we are so accessible. We've had team members before in the past that were even in sales roles that would come back and talk about, I just really don't want to go to the grocery store and have somebody ask me about their service, or I don't want to go to this local event and have somebody come up and see my YK shirt and ask me, how do I fix this? And that's something that we just kind of changed in the culture here at YK, is that's just goes with the role. That's being a part of a community-based provider. With me only having 3,000 subs in 4 small communities, I've got to make sure that my customer experience is absolutely top notch, because I'm so close to my customers every time I go out into the community. Like I said, whether it's church, grocery store, Little League game, anything like that, I'm running into my customers, and I don't want to get caught off guard with a customer that's had a bad experience. So we do everything that we can to put that at the highest level of priority.
That's very interesting, Russell. I'd like to further explore how you're enabling your team to take on Local 2.0. Can you expand a little bit, for instance, on how your support team is being able to, maybe it's certain tools that they're using, their approach, right, to be accessible? Because I love what you're saying in terms of having that community focus to really help elevate the overall experience.
Sure. So, you want to talk specifically about the tools. One of the changes that we made recently is now our entire sales and CSR team have access to Service Cloud. So when a customer calls in and wants to talk about, something with their account and experience they're having, that first line of contact that they get with the CSR has immediate, like a dashboard into that customer's experience to see, are their devices with low Wi-Fi scores? Are they bumping up against that speed threshold? And so that's something that we're already providing, that certain level of support before it even gets to what's traditionally the support team. And with those tools, just being out and about in the community, I see that all the time, where a CSR, a technician, of support, and anyone in the company has those tools at their fingertips on their mobile devices to, check for that customer right there. It wasn't too long ago, I was at a Little League game and had somebody come up and ask me a question about their service, and I'm accessing those same tools from my mobile device to answer that question for the customer out in the community. But beyond that, some of the other tools that we're using, and is we're doing a lot in Engagement Cloud. And one of the things that I think that really sets us apart from a lot of other providers is all of our customers, including residential customers, have a dedicated sales rep or a dedicated CSR. And it doesn't mean that if a customer calls in and Liz answers the phone, and Jessica is their dedicated CSR, that Liz can't help them. We share all that information, but to a certain extent, we've got a CSR or a sales team member that's kind of looking out for those customers at all times. And so when we use some of the tools that we've got in Engagement Cloud, I'm pulling regular reports for that team, and we're adding those we're adding notifications to those customer accounts in our billing system, so that when a customer does call in for whatever their issue may be, it may just be to take a payment, or it may be for an experience issue, we're able to see if that customer is bumping up against their download service limit hits, or we're able to see if that customer has low Wi-Fi scores, or they've been running a higher than normal number of speed tests. And so all of those things that a customer may not even be calling about, the CSR has it at their fingertips to say, hey, while I've got you on the line, let's talk about this. You know, we see that you're bumping up against your download service limit hit. Have you been experiencing any buffering? And the customer may say, well, you know, yeah, I have. Well, let's talk about, you know, giving you a month free service to the next higher package and see if that takes care of it for you. And then one of the recent things that we've done to kind of take Engagement Cloud even a little bit further, in January, we upgraded to Engagement Cloud Plus. And that's where we're able to see, really kind of hone in on those personas and the prospecting for those customers, so that if we're looking at a customer and we're able to see that, you know, they've likely got kids in the house, they're utilizing parental controls and Experience IQ, then that gives that CSR an opportunity to suggest Bark or a similar product. So we're really using the prospecting tools of Engagement Cloud Plus to kind of hone in on those personas and make suggestions for the customer to give them that best experience ever.
So Russell, this is so interesting, and especially how it goes back to the earlier point where, in terms of where, if we look at where the subscriber preferences are going, is that they really want their service provider to know them and to quickly innovate, right? To come up with those options that can enable more of that curated experience, right? And what I'm hearing here is that your team has across the board, right, across these customer facing roles, been enabled with those insights. And so how have you been able to, you know, kind of break those conventional silos down over time to arrive here? I mean, it's so different. It's so refreshing to hear.
Well, you know, we're not big on hierarchies here at YK, and you'll never, as president of the company, you're never going to hear me say that someone works for me. We all work together. So I think there's a sense of empowerment and leadership amongst the entire YK team. And one of the changes that we made probably, I guess, 2-3 years ago, is when we restructured the company at a management level. Every department got equal say at the management level table. So for the first time, sales was at the table with engineering, with network operations, with accounting, and we've had this kind of sales and marketing component that was always kind of a second thought. It's been moved up to the front of line. It's at the same priority of everyone else. So you'll even hear for us that, you know, we've empowered the sales and marketing team at YK to stop construction of a fiber deployment if the proper communication didn't go out in time, so that the customers had a heads up that fiber deployment was coming, and this is what technicians are doing in your service area. Everybody has kind of equal say, and we ask our team, hey, how do you think we can make this better? the support team, the CSRs, you guys are closest to the customer. You hear what they say. Tell us what the customers are saying so that we can create a better experience. And it gives everybody that voice in the whole process. It gives everybody buy-in, and we've just kind of created this culture here at YK that no matter what we do, the whole team is constantly looking for a way to make it just a little bit better.
Excellent. Thank you, Russell. Now, you mentioned earlier about in the support area, right, of being able to have those insights that can help to educate let's say it's a CSR engaging with a subscriber, right? And the insights are looking at patterns or areas that can be improved, like looking at the quality of experience score or looking at certain flow data, et cetera, right? Having all that right there at their fingertips. How is that really helping to drive proactive support? Because what we're hearing oftentimes is that transition from the reactive to the proactive support is a game changer, right? It's a very different conversation. It puts
Absolutely.
the CSR more in that driver's seat to say, let me help you and get to that next level of your desired experience. So what is YK doing in relation to that proactive piece?
Like I said, I think, that's been one of the things that Engagement Cloud has helped us do the most as far as looking at those trends and being able to educate. When we first started using Engagement Cloud, we had this terror of calling the customer up and saying, hello, customer X, we've noticed that you're bumping up against your download service limit hits, and we'd like to suggest a higher package. And we were expecting to get kind of this pushback of somewhat of a big brother approach. Why are you looking at my account and why? But it's been completely the opposite. And we kind of had that welcome, open arms approach of, thank you so much for noticing that. I never would have known that. I would have just continued to experience buffering or whatever else. And that's, like I said, that proactive approach to it and looking at those trends from the customer side, any alarms, any update, any of those reports that we can run that might show up as a potential poor experience for that customer, we're looking at those and addressing them before the customer ever even has to call in or say anything to us about it.
Wow, that's great. Great. Thank you, Russell. Very, very insightful. Now, I know that there's quite a bit more to explore here. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Chelsea.
All right, thank you, Anne. I'm sure most of our audience is familiar with this quote from the great Maya Angelou, but it's so true. It's really easy for us to get caught up in the numbers and the data and the business of what we do day in and day out and lose sight of the human connection behind the work. The work that we do is so impactful and important. So this quote is not only relevant for your people relationships, but for businesses and brands as well. People remember how their interactions with certain brands made them feel. And this is ultimately what makes or breaks a loyal customer. There is a statistic, according to Gartner, that people are actually 4 times more likely to leave a service interaction more disloyal than when they came into that interaction. And this may be even more true in our industry, in the broadband service industry, where unfortunately people often suffer in silence because their expectations on getting support, on getting their problems fixed are so low. We've seen the YK team turn this statistic on its head and actually create enthusiastic promoters when they interact with the YK staff. Our Business Insights team was honored with the opportunity recently to speak directly with YK's business subscribers in a focus group format. And this will stick with me forever. One of them said, YK is more than just a vendor to me because I know I'm more than just a number to them. It's so impactful. So Russell, can you tell us a little bit, how is your team able to consistently leave people feeling so great, feeling like more than a number after they interact with YK?
Sure, Chelsea. So I'll kind of talk a little bit from the sales and CSR side and then kind of go into the technicians. But I think more than that, just kind of what I was commenting to one of the things that Ann had asked is we let the whole team lead. And I think that you've got to be very diligent about listening to those team members that work directly with the customers and get that feedback from them. And that helps mold how you make changes and how you move forward. But, you know, I mentioned earlier from a sales and CSR standpoint, every one of our customers has a dedicated sales rep in CSR. And that's all about building that relationship. You know, I tell my team all of the time, you know, you think about local businesses that you interact with in your community, whether it's a dry cleaners, a grocery store, a sporting goods, anything like that. And obviously you're going to go to the place where you know people. You feel a little bit important because you know someone who works there, or you've got the manager's cell phone number. I feel like that's one of the things that we've kind of created in building those relationships with our customers, and especially with the CSRs. The customers typically have their cell phone numbers, have their email address, and reach out to those individuals. And it's not something that we feel like gets abused. I myself may get hit up on Facebook Messenger or get a text message on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m. because a customer knows who I am and has an issue with their internet service, and I welcome that. So we just, like I said, we're that close to our customer, and that's what helps build that relationship. The other thing that we've talked a lot about, you know, at different Calix events that we do at YK is a program that we call our 2+2+2+2 program. And that's where we're checking in on the customer 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, and just shy of 2 years after installation. And that's ensuring that everything's going well for the customer. It gives us an opportunity to make suggestions on their account, like adding Experience IQ, Protect IQ, Bark. Maybe there's other products and services that would be a good fit for the customer, but it's mainly just letting them know that we're thankful for them as a customer and checking in to see if there's anything we can do to make that experience a little bit better. On the technician side of things, I've always told my team of technicians, and I tell everybody loves the technicians. They're the deliverer of good things. They fix it when it's broken. They install it when you're waiting for that service to come up. It's like they kind of show up as the superheroes of our companies. And I think that a lot of times we miss the opportunity to make or to mold those individuals into so much more than just, I'm here to install your service or I'm here to fix your service. Our technician group a couple of years ago, when we did our reorg, we have one manager that's over the technicians and the support team. We used to see a lot of finger pointing back and forth between technicians and support, and we put them under one manager so that there was cohesion between those two departments, and they're not pointing the finger at each other, but supporting each other for an even better experience for the customer. On top of that, we work really closely between sales and customer relations with the technicians and the support team, so that it's a seamless handoff from the time that the CSR sells something or puts the order in to the time that it's turned up. And we take that a little bit further, where we've even gone so far here at YK to do some sales training with our technicians, and we'll do things like where I'll take pieces of stock photography that would be what would look like the inside of the average customer's house or the outside of the home, and kind of work with the technicians to say, based on what you're seeing here, what products and services would you suggest? What would you make a recommendation to make this customer's experience a little bit better? And for example, one of the pictures that I've used in the past has got an RV parked in front of the house. And it's like, well, they probably vacation a lot. This would be, and they're not home for extended periods of time. This would be a great opportunity to suggest the Arlo product for them to be able to keep an eye on their house whenever they're not there. And so, and we even talk about like at YK, when we go and do an install or a customer that maybe upgrades from a GigaCenter to a GigaSpire, the technician does not leave that customer premise until they have gone over Command IQ with the customer, and they get to talk about their 3 favorite features of Command IQ. And we don't tell them what those 3 features need to be. We want them to pick their 3 favorite features so that they are excited to talk about those features. So every single customer that we leave, they've got Command IQ onboarded with the GigaSpire. They've had an introduction of the app, and the technician has told them their 3 favorite parts of Command IQ. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've got a 90% app adoption rate here at YK. And one of the reasons that our customers feel so empowered with their service, they've got that app right in the palm of their hand. So like I said, everything from CSRs and sales to keeping that contact, the technicians, talking about why they like the service, why they like Command IQ, kind of being the deliverer of good things, and being able to make educated suggestions for that customer to have an even better experience, I think are a lot of the things that we're doing to kind of build that above and beyond approach to what we do at YK.
The work that you're doing is just incredible and so impactful. And I mentioned earlier that tracking Net Promoter Scores and listening to the voices of your customers is the best way to actually measure whether your commitment you've made to providing a great experience is actually paying off.
And you may remember, Chelsea, when you guys provided the results, the individual results of the NPS score or the ratings, I think before we even had our first initial meeting, our team had gone back and followed up with every single one of those customers before we even reviewed the data, so that we could make sure that even though they scored us a 7 or 8, that next time we could get them up to that 9 or 10.
That's exactly right. And I believe you knew exactly the number of detractors you had. It wasn't that many, but you had already closed the loop with those. So I'm excited to see when we do this again in the future, how it changes, how sentiments change over time. So Anne, let's go to the next slide and we'll reveal here the payoff, YK's incredible 92 NPS score. In the world of Net Promoter Score, the scores can range from -100 to 100. So 92 is almost perfect. Clearly, YK is leaving people feeling great and executing on that commitment that you've made to provide an exceptional experience. Our team in Business Insights, we've conducted Net Promoter Score surveys with over 50 Calix customers, and this is the highest score we have seen for a telephone cooperative and TIE's highest score overall. So in addition to just incredible ratings, we saw the words that your subscribers used to talk about why they gave this score were incredibly impactful. They said things like, YK is such a bright and happy feeling. YK has gained the trust and loyalty of each customer. Russell, what was your reaction when you started to see this feedback come in?
To be honest, Chelsea, I wasn't shocked just because of how much we put into this, but I was definitely surprised to get some of that feedback, and just it kind of even locked it in a little bit more for me as to why we go to the lengths that we do to provide the level of service that we provide.
It's absolutely incredible. Fred Reichheld, who is the inventor of the Net Promoter Score methodology, tells a great story about how in the very beginning, way back in 2003, he was working with a consulting company to build this thing that became the Net Promoter Score. And he wanted to call it Net Lives Enriched. He thought Net Promoter Score felt a bit too corporate, and to him it really was delivering on the golden rule. Are you treating people the way you would want to be treated? Are you doing the right thing for your customers? And ultimately, he lost that battle with his consulting company because it is still called Net Promoter Score. But the heart of it is this: you're enriching lives, you're making a difference. And the point that Fred makes here is that when you treat people with a higher level of care and love, that begets loyal behaviors. Loyal behaviors are things like treating your employees with respect, being more forgiving when technical issues arrive, because we all know in this industry that's just a given. It's going to happen an outage at some point. Buying more from you, and ultimately bringing in more business for you through their referrals, through sharing their great experiences with their friends and family. Russell, how have you seen these loyal behaviors come to life in your own network?
I think one of the most evident places that we see this, Chelsea, is in social media. One of the things that I work with a marketing firm to help manage our social media, and it's always mind-blowing to them that, you know, when we are doing system maintenance, or, you know, on the chance that we do have an internet outage, one of the priorities is that we get that posted out as quick as possible. We actually have a policy in place of, you know, how that process takes place. But when we post those, I know so many service providers, you know, just get bashed every time that happens, and customers are asking, you know, how much credit are they going to get and how long is this going to take? If you want to see something entertaining, go back to our Facebook page and look anytime we've ever had a service outage, and you'll see how many times it's shared, and you'll see customers commenting, "Thank you for letting us know, YK. We appreciate that you're working on it." It's all positive feedback when we're posting that the internet is down, and that's just something that's so unheard of. The other thing too is, you know, any of your marketing team that's keeping a close eye on those Facebook community groups, those little chat groups, where usually it's an opportunity for local folks to bash local restaurants, businesses. I always kind of say it's kind of a cesspool for negativity in those groups, but we really kept an eye on those to just listen for competitors coming into the area, what our customers are saying. And every time anyone asks, "Hey, looking for an internet service provider, who do you recommend?" I mean, our customers are our cheerleaders out there saying, "YK all the way, you've got to go with YK, it's the best." I had one the other day where a customer was shopping around and made a comment that she had a service issue with her YK service, and a customer immediately chimed back in a comment and said, "Well, you need to call them and let them work with you. I had an issue one time and they worked with me, they got it up and running. It's been great ever since. Call them and let them fix it." So, you know, it's seeing that in print, in social media there, it's just still kind of humbling and mind-blowing to see how many times our customers are the cheerleaders for YK.
It's just so great to hear, Russell, the things that you're doing, and I think that a lot of BSPs can learn from this kind of approach. So, Anne, we can go to the next slide here. Now, a 92 NPS is amazing. We love to see it. But the question our team is here to answer is, what action can you take based on the score? We have made it our mission to elevate NPS beyond just a KPI and use NPS in a way that we call a measuring stick. It becomes very powerful when you can combine NPS survey feedback with the other data sources at your fingertips. And using your Calix Cloud platforms, we're able to actually break up your network into smaller segments, look at people individually or look at people who have similar characteristics, and analyze how each group compares back to that network baseline score. And when we ran this segmentation for YK, we found some very interesting things. We learned that your subscribers who had a recent trouble ticket actually have an NPS 5 points higher than those without. So really paying off that those service interactions are creating enthusiastic promoters. We found that subscribers who have your mobile app score 9 points higher than subscribers without the mobile app. And in a network where you have 90% app adoption, it was hard to find those without the app, but we can see that that is driving satisfaction overall. And then on the flip side, when we looked at Net Promoter Score by tenure, we saw this incredible trend where your 2+2+2+2 program is paying off with very high sentiments in the first years in the onboarding period. But we did see, and it's expected, we've seen this over and over again, a decline in NPS, an 18-point decline after 5 years of tenure. But these are the kind of insights that can lead to impactful action plans and success plans that drive results. So Russell, what surprised you most when we presented all of this data to you in your final readout?
Well, I think you hit two of the three that were most surprising to me, Chelsea. The way that it dropped off after we finished our 2+2 program, which has kind of caused us to add an additional +2 or however many that we need to add to keep that interaction going with the customer. And again, really surprised that there was a higher NPS score for the customers that had one recent trouble ticket. And that just kind of speaks to what our technicians are doing and kind of showing those customers some love on site. I guess the other thing that was a little bit shocking to me, I expected there to be a higher NPS score in our fiber areas versus our copper, but I was still really surprised to see that we had an 83% NPS in our copper areas, which kind of drives home that whole idea that we've talked about, is that it's not always about the speed, it's not always about the technology, it's that experience. So that was really surprising for me to see as well.
I would agree with you 100%. Seeing an 83 NPS associated with a copper technology was surprising and just very interesting. Goes to prove that experience can be delivered no matter what the technology you're delivering it through. I get asked a lot whether the Net Promoter Scores that Calix is publishing on behalf of our customers are legitimate, especially when you see numbers like 92. I can vouch that YK's survey was sent to all your subscribers. It had a statistically valid response rate, a low margin of error, but it's a very legitimate score for your network. And I have to say 92 is not typical, but it's not unheard of either. While we see most of our customers average around the 40s to 60s range, we have worked with a handful of exceptional organizations like YK with world-class NPS scores over 75. And there are a few common characteristics that we see among these networks that we've started to call it the Calix recipe for success. We see consistently high ratings associated with reliable fiber networks, with high penetration of GigaSpire systems in the home, with a high mobile app adoption rate, and for companies that are offering additional managed services like Protect IQ, Bark, and Arlo. Russell, how do you think these attributes contributed to the score you received?
Again, I think it's just all of those pieces coming together. It creates that overall experience for the customer. It's not about, it's hearing the customer, hearing what they're needing, what experience they're wanting, and to be able for us to be flexible enough to provide that to them.
Exactly. All right, let's go to the next slide here. And another layer that our team adds to our analysis is sentiment scoring. So in addition to that Net Promoter Score question of how likely are you to recommend us, we're asking an open-ended question, just simply, what is the primary reason behind the rating you gave? Our team takes those open-ended answers, uses a natural language processing tool to categorize the comment and assign a sentiment score based on the overall tone of the words they used. So this is an example of how we visualize that data. You can see for each of the topics that the comments fell into, there's a proportion of positive comments to negative and neutral sentiments. And this was an interesting trend we saw here for YK. Our team has started to use this visual and specifically looking at the volume of positive comments on customer service and overall experience to get a measure of the level of brand differentiation in a marketplace. It's great if the score is high, but if the high score is based mostly on fast internet at a low price, we know that's not as competitively differentiating. as it is when we see a trend like this, where their high ratings are based on your customer service, support, and overall experience. And in fact, if we pull out the subscribers who cited customer service in their comment, the NPS is a 99. So Russell, how are you able to use this data as you're evaluating your competitive strategy moving forward?
Well, I think for this, it shows that support and reliability is what leads here. Price does not. And I was mentored very early on to not give away the bandwidth. Don't get into a pricing war with your competitors. And I think as all of us see more and more competition, the first thing we think of is we've got to match that price for that gig. We've got to be a little bit lower. And I would caution anyone to never get into a pricing war there. Two of the things that we talk about with our sales team all the time is don't sell from your own pocketbook. Don't base what the customer needs on what your own financial situation is. Provide them a solution that's going to take care of what they need. Don't be afraid to offer those additional services or those higher priced tiers. The other thing I tell people all the time is if you want steak, you're going to pay for steak. If you want hamburger meat, they've got that down the street and it's cheaper than steak, but at YK, we're serving steak. And so it's just one of those ways to kind of put a visual in, you're paying for a better experience, you're paying for a better, quality of service, and don't be afraid to stand on that.
Absolutely. And I think the data point we're going to share on the next slide is going to really pay off your point here. What we are looking at here is the segmented NPS by service tier. So each tier is represented by a separate bar. The Net Promoter Score is represented by the orange line, and the purple dotted line is the network baseline score. We do this visual often in our analysis, and this is exactly how we compare who has higher scores and better experiences and who doesn't. This is an interesting trend. Service tier is actually not a key driver behind higher NPS ratings because this line is relatively flat and actually with a slight drop on that highest tier. We have started to see this trend of a flat line by service tier over and over again this year. But the funny thing is, in this industry, service tier is typically what a subscriber's monthly fee is based on. Those with higher speeds are paying more money, but our data suggests that they are not realizing a better experience. So this data especially highlights the importance, just like you just said, Russell, of shifting your strategy to compete beyond just speed and price. Russell, what has YK done to be ahead of the game in handling this shift?
Again, kind of speaking to listening to the customer, providing them what they need. We've never tried to oversell. We've never tried to sell a customer more than what they need. It's all about just creating that great experience for that customer. If they're able to have a better experience on a lower tier with adding a few other features that, kind of work for how they use the internet, then so be it. I mean, obviously as a company, we want to drive revenue, but we've always coached here at YK to never oversell. It's just a matter of listening to the customer and providing them what it is that they need and the tools of how they want to use it.
Absolutely. All right, let's go to our next slide, Anne, and this is the most exciting part. It's amazing to have all of this data, this analysis, gain a better understanding of how your subscribers are feeling, but it all falls flat at the end of the day if you don't leverage those learnings and those insights into real action. So the notes we have here on this slide are taken straight from the exercise we did together during our consultation, where your team talked about, what do you want to do now that you know what you know? These are some of the priorities that were discussed, things like extending that outreach to your subscribers with more than 5 years tenure, which I know it kind of upsets your 2 + 2 + 2 program now adds a 5 at the end, but we can see the impact of that. Increasing take rates for your managed services, leveraging more reliability-focused messaging. These are worthy initiatives that will, at the end of the day, be very impactful to your subscribers. So Russell, what advice do you have for those that are listening in on this discussion and want to be able to see results like YK has seen?
I guess I jotted down 5 points that I'll make really quickly, Chelsea. I get leadership on board. You've got to have this need for a better customer experience needs to come from the top down. And if you don't have management support of that, it's not going to trickle down through the organization and you're not going to get buy-in. Second of all, I'd say break down the silos between departments and find ways to get your departments to work together. I've always found that anytime there's finger pointing between departments, it's because a lot of people are unsure exactly what their roles and responsibilities are and want to point that finger somewhere else. So look for ways to get the departments to work together better. Number 3, be a customer. Walk in their shoes. I have from my own home, if I've experienced an internet outage, I've called into support and have that exact same experience that my customers do. You're never going to know what your customers are experiencing, and you can't make it better if you don't have that experience yourself. Number 4, I'd say invest in your team and the tools that they use. Put training into your team. Get if the tool that you need to provide a better customer experience is a little bit more expensive, make that investment because it's going to create that better experience all around that's going to drive more revenue, more customers for you. And lastly, kind of that local bit, show up, see and be seen. You know, be a part of your community, interact with your customers. Don't hide behind a desk or a building. Get out, roll your sleeves up, be a part of that community.
I hope everybody was taking notes because that was incredible advice. Thank you,
I so agree.
And
absolutely.
and I know we're getting to the end of time and we don't have contact information. If you go back to the introduction, hey, with our headshots and names, so everyone's got the name. If anyone has to drop off, I welcome anybody to add me on LinkedIn, send a message if you've got questions or want to follow up anything after today's session.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Russell. We'll make sure that we definitely connect the dots there. And speaking of which, I'm going to quickly segue to this slide here so that folks, if you do have questions, right, you want to continue this conversation, you might have some very specific instances that you would like to explore and have more expertise in helping to answer your questions or just get guidance, right? This is where you can do that, is through this poll here. So Sunny, if you would kindly launch the poll here, this is where, you know, for instance, if you want to look at, hey, how can I improve that service experience, right? Getting into what Russell was sharing earlier about those insights, the automation, the diagnostics, right? To really help enable those frontline teams, and it can be support and even sales, looking at really anyone that's customer facing. Another area would be, you know, as I was sharing earlier, the insights, right? But orchestrating that across all those teams for more of that end to end. So if you have that area of focus where you want to look at building trust, right? I mean, Russell, you had so many excellent points about how trust is that integral cog in the wheel that drives so much and bridges right into what Chelsea was sharing in terms of what does this mean for loyalty? How does that enable the company growth? And then, of course, the NPS analysis, right? If you're interested or you have questions about the analysis, about how to action those strategies, right? Let us know here so that we can better advise and help you along that way. And if you're interested in all, absolutely, right? That's certainly an option here too. Okay, so as we have that poll going, I know, oh goodness, we have maybe a minute or so here. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. We have one for Russell, actually. And the question is, how do you encourage your team to be more active in the community? I find our team doesn't have much interest in showing up for the community.
Sure, and that's something that takes some time. That's not a ship you're going to turn around overnight. One of the things that we did several years ago when we kind of redid our mission statement and core values, one of the core values that our entire team came up with was that community component. And so when we do performance reviews every year, each employee does have a component of their performance review that is reflective of their community involvement. It doesn't mean that anyone gets docked or gets written up if they don't participate in events, but you've got to have a variety of events so that everybody finds something of their interest. We've got a local fishing tournament that we participate in every year that we get a lot of technicians that may not want to be a part of a chamber banquet or a sales event, but they want to show up and help out for that fishing tournament. You've got to have a good variety and mix of opportunities for everybody to find something that they really want to do. And the other thing I'd say is make it easy. Right now we're doing what we call our Summer Spectacular series. We're getting an ice cream truck or we're getting a snow cone truck, and we're setting up in each of the communities that we serve. We're just there to say, hey, come get a free snow cone or an ice cream, come visit with us. We just want to see you. And so trying to make things as easy as possible, not setting up a tent and spending all day, that sort of thing. You've got to make it easy and you've got to make that a part of your core value.
Awesome. Well, we are already at the end of our time. My goodness, that went very fast. And thank you so much for the engagement today. We really do appreciate it. And I'd also like to give a special thank you to my colleagues today. Thank you very much, Russell and Chelsea, for helping us bring this alive. And with that, I think it is a wrap. Any other comments or questions, folks?
Looks like it's it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again. Do appreciate it and have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.